Alright guys, so we are getting ready to start here with the Academy Showcase. I welcome those who are watching it live. Hopefully more of you will be checking it out on YouTube. That will be over at MTGO Academy's YouTube page. You can find the link in this week's article. So before we get started here real quick, I wanted to go over what the All-Kill 3v3 is. This is an introduction to the league that I will be running, and again, you can find the details over at my article on mtgoacademy.com. And what's going to be happening is we're going to be showcasing what a single round is like. What you can see here, I have the rules up for you on the screen. What it's going to be in a single round is your team of 3 versus an opposing team of 3 in a best of 5 matches. Now, this is played, and it's going to sound a little complicated at first, but trust me, it does get easier. What happens is you each send out one player, they play their games, and it works as a best of 5 matches. So the winner of your first 1v1 moves on to the next round, and this keeps going. The winner of the match moves on and moves on and moves on until you get to a point where a single team has won 3 matches. Matches are set pretty typically, your same best of 3 and time limits as such. And what's going to happen is if you get a 3-0, it's called an all-kill. The reverse all-kill is when your team is losing and your last player makes those last 3 wins to pull it out. And that can be really exciting. This is something we pulled out. It is most commonly seen in StarCraft 2 for those of you who are familiar with it. I know there is a little bit of overlap between esports fans and Magic players, so wanted to point that out. And I think it's a lot of fun. I thought, I don't see why it can't work in this kind of format, why we can't do something like this in Magic Online. We're going to take a minute here. I do have 6 volunteers here that will be getting going in a minute. We're going to take a look at the first match. Let's see if they are ready. And these 6 guys have volunteered to showcase for you what the 3v3 is going to look like. Our 2 teams, our first team, it appears, will be Shafa Wafa 5. Magic Gathering Strat, and that is Dan, if you guys know him over at magicstrat.com. And their third, I believe, is JPH Snake. And they will be playing against my other volunteers, which is Avery61. We have Sneak Attack Kid and Splashing Black. Let's see who are setting up the games. Letting them know real quick that it is regular match rules. This will be found in Anything Goes room, anyone who wants to join us there. I'm going to leave these rules here on screen so people can take a look and just kind of read over them. And again, as this is going on, as you see these videos and whatnot, you can feel free to tweet at me, MTGO JustSin on Twitter. And you can ask me questions there. There will be a sign up when the league actually comes down on MTG Sally forums, and you can check out that there. I'm also putting up details at castingcommons.com, and that's a great website for competitive Pauper play. Sorry, just monitoring chat as this goes here. And that will be where I will be putting up a weekly kind of article about what's going on with the league. But right now, the article on mtgoacademy.com is where you want to go. And you want to find out all the details about the league. And we'll talk about it after this. We're also going to take a bit of a break in between each match so we can kind of gather people and whatnot. Sometimes, getting people to line up as necessary requires a little finagling. Alright, so it's a bit of a debate, it seems, over who was playing first. We'll get this worked out in just a second, guys. Alright. It looks like, I believe JPH Snake will be the first player for, we'll call it Team Shafa, who I just showed up. I think he is still playing. He was running a little bit late, so I think there was some confusion on whether or not he was going to be the third or not. Alright. So table is up. Hopefully we can get someone else to sit at it. It will be JPH Snake starting out here. Alright. I think Sneak Attack Kid will go first. Maybe? Yes, Sneak Attack Kid will be going first. So let us jump into the game right now. Alright. Now, usually, this should be interesting. Sneak Attack, if he's a regular grinder that you see in daily events. And if he's playing kind of his typical deck, we can expect to see mono black control. If we see JPH Snake, I want to say he's going to be playing Dimir Trinket. I'm not positive, though. I think it is something that he has gotten some experience with. So Swamp coming down, Sneak Attack Kid, odds are good. It's definitely going to be mono black. It's something he's had a lot of success with in daily events. Oh, alright, Snake is maybe Stompy. Should be interesting. I don't know why I was on the opinion he was going to be running a Dimir list. But Sneak Attack has had a lot of success with MBC, which has become a definite addition to the deck. Some have taken to running it in almost a bit of a campy way, running it with Grey Merchant, so that you can get more devotion off it. Oh, this should be interesting. Island comes down into Wall of Roots. I wonder if this may be a Tron deck or just debuting something that we have not seen before. This could be really cool. Alright, Sneak Attack, drawing cards off the Rager here. Witches unfortunately do not have flying, but if he really wanted to, he could sit there and ping off life from JPH Snake. It would be something kind of counterintuitive because of that ability to witch deal damage to yourself as your opponent chooses. Another Wall of Roots comes down. Oh, you know what? This is going to be the Love Train, isn't it? I think it is. For those of you who are not familiar, the Love Train is a deck that has seen a lot of play through the Pauper Gauntlet, which is something that has been ran over at Magic Gathering Strat. It is kind of a really cool concept. Dan was running a whole bunch of decks against other competitive decks, and just kind of a melee sense to see who wins out, who's the last deck standing, and it has done successful there. Hasn't actually shown up in any daily events that I have noticed. Definitely not any since the recent bans to Fissure and Cloudpost. It's based on kind of the Freed from the Real enchantment that allows you to pay a blue and untap the creature it enchants. So what it tends to do is put out Overgrown Battlement and use it as kind of an infinite mana generation. Now I know Battlement produces only green, but it uses all of these walls, and I'm blanking on the name, we'll look it up real quick. But it uses those to tap out and plays things, Capsize, it brings in the longbow and stuff like that. And it's kind of an interesting thing. I'm really not entirely sure how well it's going to play. I think this will be a really interesting match for it because mono black control tends to be so heavy on the creature kill. It'll be interesting to see just how well it fares. I know it's been doing really well in the Gauntlet, but see how well it holds up against, especially a well-known daily event grinder. There it is, Axebane Guardian. Alright, he beat me to it. As you see here, Axebane Guardian, that's the one where it taps to add any color of mana, and that's really kind of the linchpin to this, because the Overgrown Battlement only puts out green mana, whereas the Axebane Guardian will provide you with blue. So attacking through here, it would seem that he is going to decide to block with the walls. Seems like a safe bet, but you never know. They do run a lot of dead weights and stuff like that. Echoing Decay is an option out there that can be useful against these walls if you find the right blocking scenario. But it looks like he does throw in an Akobi Gang Shinobi off of one of the unblocked creatures there. It would be his Witch. It would be definitely much better, obviously, if he could have worked that Shinobi in off of a Rat or the Rager, and he could reuse that enters the battlefield effect. Still going to have pretty devastating consequences there, as we see he does have to discard a Freed from the Real. Forcing your opponent to discard their hand like that is definitely a hard thing. Ravenous Rats is pretty good at it. It's something that has actually been kind of declining in play in mono black control, and not so much as it's not seeing play, as they're starting to run, say, 3 copies of it, just less than what it used to see. It was a 4 inclusion automatically. But I think if any deck can make a comeback from this, this might be the deck to do it. They do run Mull Drifters, as you see here. Snake got one into play, and does run, obviously, the Love Train thing comes from the spell Train of Thought, which allows you to pay 1 and a blue to continually replicate the ability to draw a single card. Personally, I think it's a little clunky, but it has, when it works, it's ridiculous, because if they get the walls into play, and the mana generation that it can pull off, then it can get really just disgusting as far as what they bring out. If you get enough mana and you can replicate that spell, 10 times, you've refilled your hand entirely, kind of negating everything that the black player has going for them. So if anyone can kind of bypass the ability to discard a whole bunch of cards here that the mono black has, I think it might be this deck. Kind of an interesting position right now. Sneak Attack really doesn't have any attacks, unless of course he has a combat trick in hand, in the form of a -X spell. Mull Drifter could easily just block the Shinobi there and kill it off. Really not going to be able to get through for that extra discard. Cycling off a Baron more there, probably digging into something, trying to find a kill spell. Even if he manages to find a single kill spell, being able to work your way through those walls, getting that Mull Drifter off the field can be beneficial. He does put down Chittering Rats. It looks like going to help him significantly hurt JPH Snake's ability to draw cards. Let's see what he has here. Like I said, not a ton of outs, I imagine, at this point in time. He does actually get his Guardian into play and dumps his hand there off of a Forest as well. Probably beneficial, because when you dump your hand, it actually is a strong play against mono black, simply for the fact that Chittering Rats does not actually hit anything. You can, discard your hand, and that way you actually draw the top card, as opposed to having to wait for, drawing the same card over and over. But another Rager comes down, gets that Witch back into play. Gonna need kind of this swarm thing going on, and if he is, I don't think Sneak Attack actually runs Grey Merchant in his deck. If he was running Grey Merchants, it would be a really great position for him to be in, especially at this point in time. It actually, you consider the Love Train deck looks to put a whole bunch of walls out, and it looks to kind of create that creature wall so that its opponent can't attack through. And that provides him with some pretty great options in most matchups, but if you're running a mono black control variant that does have the finisher in Grey Merchant, what that's going to give you is a chance to build up this creature wall and use it to your advantage, getting that devotion out. So it looks like Sneak Attack is going to go all in on this attack. There are plenty of blockers available. He's still going to be able to get through some damage. I think he's looking to use the Witches here to finish off some of these walls. I would personally be a little surprised if he decided to block with the Guardian. And I would be a little surprised too if he let... Well, I guess the Shinobi can go through now. He has no cards in hand, but I would want to kill it off. Can't hear any singing. I would want to kill it off so that it would be able to... sorry, distracted by chat. I would want to kill it off so that I could rebuild my hand and would not have to worry about it coming back to bite me in the ass later on. Alright, Deadly Recluse. That would be kind of the green Doomblade. It's going to provide him a decent blocker and a chance to kill off a card of his choice. Not too bad. I feel like he might have some better uses of that in other matchups. But we'll see what goes on. So it's kind of interesting. I think Sneak Attack also does not run a Corrupt in his deck. There are some these days that are going very heavy on kind of the old-fashioned versions of mono black control, where they're running, the 4 tendrils, the 4 corrupts, the way it kind of used to be. I kind of feel like this is not necessary. It's a little slow. Especially because a lot of these lists are starting to run 8 cycling lands, and that's just not working out in your favor because you're devoting 8 of your land spots, into cycling lands as opposed to swamps. So you're going to be just diminishing the ability of the deck to kill things off. Man, I really shouldn't keep chat on like this. Yes, Doomblade is definitely the black deadly recluse. So it looks like he is going to take a chance here on the witches to try and kill something off. Does get one of those walls out, and that's going to continue to diminish the ability of the ability of JPH Snake to finish him off via that love train scenario that he loves so much. Longbow does come out. This doesn't have a lot of targets at this point in time. He can finish off a rat. He can do single damage at the end of combat, but things are going to really start slowing down for Snake here if he can't find some extra draw. I don't know if Sneak Attack, he's got one card in hand. I don't think he's going to have a kill for that Wall of Roots. I think we're just lagging a little behind here. But as I was saying with Corrupt and Tendrils, it's kind of an old-fashioned thing that decks are starting to bring back. I kind of like it. I like Corrupt. I was a big fan of Mono Black Control kind of since I started playing. Victim of Night here going to pick off yet another wall. I'm kind of surprised that he decided to pick off that one as opposed to the one with the longbow. I guess the benefit there is the one that he killed had a higher toughness. I am a fan of Corrupt. I think Grey Merchant is a better Corrupt in several ways. Simply because it gets a creature on the board. It does have that 4 toughness, which is hard for you to get through. It does. I think people are trying a little too hard to be kind of fun with it, as they bring in like the and I'm going to mispronounce it totally, but the Oubliette, which is kind of the black O-ring. And I think it's getting a little too fun. I think that, you know, if you stick with a simple plan, a simple mono black shell, when you use witches and you use chittering rats, that you'll have enough in devotion to really make that Grey Merchant count when it lands. So here we go. It's going to kind of turn out to a war of pinging for 1. He does kind of get... I'm a little unsure about that one by Sneak Attack. Rats are going to come down. He's going to be able to wipe this board, but kind of an interesting move because it does allow his opponent to basically kill off a 2 toughness creature there. So Sneak will take the first game. I think Crypt Rats on the next turn will go down for 7, and there's nothing that Sneak could go for right there. So they're going to go into sideboarding. I want to talk real quick about what we could see. I'm actually not entirely familiar with the Love Train sideboard. So I don't really know what he could have going on for him right here. It's really tough to keep your walls alive when you're facing, like I said, such a package of creature kill. And there's going to be so many things that you want to stay alive. As far as Sneak Attack, maybe some discard. I would want to bring in things to possibly get rid of those freed from the reels. To, you know, finish off that combination before it even hits the board. You have plenty of things to kill them off. Maybe if we do see a Vines of the Vastwood coming out, then we could maybe bypass some of that targeted kill that Mono Black does have. If, you know, Sneak Attack anticipates that, I do believe he runs some other Edict effects. And this is going to look a little funky here for a minute, just deal with me until this game starts up again. But Edict effects would be kind of nice. It doesn't have that direct targeting for, you know, the specific creatures you want to die, obviously, but it would allow him to get around those Vines of the Vastwood if he anticipates Snake bringing those in. I don't know if he runs even like Apostle's Blessing to protect that combination. Something maybe worth considering is that, unfortunately, maybe I should have paid a little bit more attention to those matches that Dan had been playing with Love Train. All I know is that it's been really killing it there, and it's absolutely surprised me because no one, and I'm surprised even no one has attempted to run it in daily events. Maybe if they have, I have just kind of missed out on it. It's something that I think is a little fragile when you run a combo deck like that. You have to deal with protecting your combo and finding your combo. And the deck does run a decent amount of draw to find the pieces that it needs, but you know, it's one of these things where you got to really protect it against a very heavy metagame for control. I mean, mono black control has become currently one of the top played decks, and we're seeing a lot of Dimir control as well. So, you know, if you can get past the counter control that's already out there, it's really kind of a tough thing. But I'm going to imagine that Snake does have some options in his sideboard to kind of get around that. So, getting things off here, we can expect a turn 2 wall. Yep, there it goes. Overgrown Battlement, one of the biggest mana producers for the deck. And Victim of Night right off the bat, trying to prevent any kind of acceleration that Snake has. Definitely, you know, what you want to do as the mono black control player is get these down. I feel like this deck tends to be a lot like you would see in Eye Candy, and that is the blue-red deck with Kiln Fiend and Nivix Cyclops. And it works in a matter where you want to, you know, get those guys, and you want to find the perfect opportunity to get through and kill them, and all they really have going for them is Apostle's Blessing to keep those guys alive. So if you can manage 4 to 5 targeted kills on a Cyclops or on a Kiln Fiend, then you're really putting yourself in a good position here. I think this is kind of a similar scenario. I think Sneak Attack could easily have brought in some extra kill spells, managed to target down some things. Shield Sphere, I believe, is actually a main deck card, and I think it's not a terrible option if you're anticipating Edict effects. It gives you something that can, you know, be thrown away if you have to an Edict effect to protect one of your other creatures. It also gives him a decent blocker for nothing off of the Trinket Mage, and will add to that defender count that we see. That you're going to need to generate your mana base. Chittering Rat's coming down, slowing down GPH Snake a little bit more. Like I said, I feel like the deck does have the ability to get around it, if anyone does. You know, there's not a lot of heavy draw decks anymore in the format. Delver does a decent job of drawing cards, especially if it can get counters on those, but despite the fact that Muldrifter has become really heavily played, we're not seeing a ton of heavy draw that we used to see in like Is It Post, and I think that's just because there's no longer a option for decks to really maintain anymore off of the life gain that you have in Glimmer Post. Have seen actually a Tron deck, not to get too far off subject here, a Tron deck that has started running a set of Glimmer Posts just for the life gain, something that maybe we'll see a bit more of. There you go, decides to trade the Trinket Mage for the Chittering Rats, and unfortunately comes back to bite him in the ass as Unearth brings that right back to the battlefield, and going to put him off yet another card draw. Pretty nice play there by Sneak Attack. I love Unearth. I think it's one of the strongest cards we have in the format, and there really is a lot of strong cards like that you wouldn't consider broken, but they can really generate some nice plays, especially if you find yourself in a mirror match as mono black control. You would really want to find something like that. Alright, Muldrifter again, like I said, if anyone has an ability here to kind of bypass this discard and hand destruction theme that you get in mono black control, it will be a deck like this. Gonna get some through the air. I would be surprised. Oh, Tendrils. I believe that is a sideboard card for Sneak Attack, unless he has updated his list recently. Puts him in a pretty good place. I was going to say the Muldrifters are doing a pretty good job of attacking through the air. Going to bring him down a little bit. Attacking through with Rats here does decide to use Victim of Night to kill off the Shield Sphere. Even if he didn't have that kill, I think it's important to continue attacking even if the spear is on the table. If that's the only blocker for your opponent, when you attack into it, you have to remember it has that ability to get smaller every time it blocks. So you really want to keep attacking into it in hopes that you can eventually kill it off. Down goes Double Turn, Overgrown Battlement, and Axebane Guardian. Those are two of the important pieces here for the Infinite Gen. 2 cards in hand for Snake. Oh, I was going to say we can see if he has the final combo piece here. What does he have? Maybe he brings in Negates. Okay, he's going to use Vines just to protect the Guardian. Since he's going to have to discard 2 cards anyway, not a bad play. You're going to have to, like I said, discard it anyway. If he has Freed, it's that last card. I'm going to be really sad for Snake because he had kind of the combo. Oh, nope, another Axebane Guardian. All right, so not so terrible. He still has an opportunity here. to find it. And it's one thing, again, one of the things I feel is a little bit weak about this deck is once you get the engine online, you get the Guardian in play, you have Freed for the Real. I mean, it kind of requires more than one defender so that you can generate enough mana. And it also requires a finisher. So you're looking at already 4 cards to really generate this effect. Verdict going to come down, gets that Overgrown Battlement off the field. And this is still putting Sneak in a pretty good place, even though he's down at 9 life. Nether Rats comes down. Again, not so bad once you've emptied your hand. So you want to keep that in mind when you're playing against MBC. If you can kind of dump your hand like that, you'll be in a decent spot. It's not great, obviously, but these rats now, while their body's on the field, he's just putting them out, and he's not getting that extra bonus of skipping your draw. Ooh, and another land drop off of Snake. Not good to see. I always wonder about the mana base on this type of deck because you have so many land producing defenders, but at the same time you need the land to get the defenders into play to generate that extra mana. Hopefully he can find himself some kind of finisher. It looks like we're going to see a Shinobi come in. Going to cause discards there. And another Chittering Rats going down off of that bounce effect, basically. So you have to find a real finisher in this. A lot of times, as I was saying, it comes down to Axebane Guardian, an additional wall, freed from the real, and then something like the Longbow as your finisher. And so you're looking at a 4-piece combo, and that can be really tough to get into, especially in this matchup. I think Mono Black easily has the edge here. So it'll be interesting to see if he can pull this off. He is able to continue to get some damage through thanks to these Mull Drifters. Mono Black has no answer basically to flyers outside of straight kill. Some decks are running Liliana Spectre if they consider the metagame to be heavy enough on things like Delver, where they're going to need those additional flyers, but most decks are not running it. So Trinket Mage comes down, Longbow. He is looking to get his combo together here. He is definitely getting close. He can get that into play, and that's something that Mono Black is not going to be able to interact with at all. As he attacks through here, again, getting Sneak Attack down to 5. I don't think, as I said, that he is running Gray Merchants, so that Tendrils might be the only option he has. I don't know if he even has a second copy. If that is indeed a sideboard card, then you might expect another copy somewhere in the deck. If it is a singleton main, some decks are choosing to do that. He could be in trouble if he can't manage to do this last 12 damage. Alright, Victim of Night is going to help him out here a little bit and get that Mull Drifter off the field, but he taps out Guardian in response for blue. Is it a negate? Oh, okay, Muddle in the Mixture. This is something that the deck will use here and there to transmute for the Train of Thought. So that works out kind of nice. Unfortunately, he does have to tap down his Guardian who can't block. Looks like he is going to trade for the Shinobi, keep cards in his hand. Probably a good thought there. And get rid of one of the rats as well. Oh, play here by Sneak Attack. Oh, no, another Shinobi. Oh, man. You want to talk about brutal. That is it. Sneak Attack is one of the more well-known Mono Black players. He is one of the fewer ones that are running Shinobi. It's something that I have seen several decks not running those anymore. They'll run it maybe as a one of. They prefer other things. I like the use of the Shinobi. There's a very heavy control meta that we find ourselves in, and it finds a really nice place, and you get that discard going. If you can get Delver to dump their hand, you've put them in a really bad spot. It's down to 7 here. He's going to use the Guardian to block the rats, just trying to keep himself alive, trying to keep that Guardian on the field, see if he can't find something. I think a Train of Thought here would be really great. Another rats goes down. Again, not going to miss something there. Really not a great spot. I don't know even what Snake could find. If he found Train of Thought, he could draw himself some more cards to maybe find something. It's just terrible, because I kind of wish he had like a Vines there, or he had the longbow still. If he had the longbow, this would be game over. If he loses this down at 1 life for Sneak, does Sneak get the kill? Cycles away Baron Moore. This is intense. Does he find it? 2 cards in hand. I'm guessing he didn't have one. Did he find one off of the Baron Moore? There's a long pause here. If he attacks through... Oh, and he does concede. Snake does take down the game. That is excellent. Oh, wait, there's a reveal there on his hand. 2 swamps. Okay, so he didn't find what he needed. He really needed to find a kill for that Muldrifter that was not an Edict effect. So there you go. He's going to take it down. If he attacked through there, Snake at the worst would be down to 2. You would have Sneak attack dying on the following turn thanks to the Muldrifter attack. And they're going to go to a game 3. And I am really glad that Sneak showed us that. Kind of unfortunate for him. Mono Black doesn't really need lands, so I understand why they've started to run 8 cycling lands, but it's just not where you want to be in most cases. I think Sneak's deck does run a full set of Baron Moors and just 2 Polluted Mires, which I guess is somewhere of a compromise. Oh man, that's got to be tough for Sneak. I don't know what else he could have done there. You know, that's definitely the benefit of these Muldrifters. He's going to have that advantage to get over this creature wall. And unfortunately, like I said, Sneak is not running the option for Grey Merchant. Grey Merchant there would just be such a finisher, especially against all of these walls. So it'll be curious as we go here to game number 3, what is going to come of this. Looks like Sneak is going first. He's still deciding. I imagine he would go first. I see very little reason to not go first on this particular matchup. Alright. Looking at their hands. Bit of a slow start here. Like I said, I think if I'm the mono black player, I'm feeling pretty good about the matchup, but I still want maybe a little discard brought in when it comes to sideboarding. Maybe a little more targeted kill. If I'm running Tendrils in the sideboard, I might opt to bring out one of my Edict effects in favor of that targeted kill so that I could find things like the Muldrifter and bring him down. I don't know if his particular list is running things like Echoing Decay. That would be great against this particular match if you find those Muldrifters getting in your way. Oh, this is not good. Looks like Snake is going to have to mulligan down to 4. That is not good. I really don't know what to say with it. Oh, and a turn 1 duress. I hate that. Can we call it game now? I hate to do that, but man, it is just, there has to be nothing more demoralizing than having to mulligan to 4 and then getting hit with a turn 1 duress, and it looks like he's going to drop Longbow out of his hand. Let's see what it says. Reveals Wall of Roots, Simic Guildgate, and Tree of Tales. So it looks like he will still be able to at least get down that turn 2 wall. Will we see like a turn 2 Chittering or Ravenous Rats here? That would be just terrible. Even worse, I guess, would be Wrench Mind. What is the play? Nothing? Is he bluffing it? He just having a little fun? Oh, yep. Alright, fine. He's going to leave mana open maybe for a kill. He knows there's a wall coming out this turn. Oh, Recluse. Okay. I guess Snake wants to go on the offensive as early as possible, try and get in what damage he can. Not a bad idea, as this game does tend to stall out. We saw in game 1 where it does kind of wall up with creatures. So we'll see if he can manage to pull this out. I would be surprised if Sneak doesn't have some kind of option to pull out a kill on that Recluse if he needs it. He might be sitting back, probably trying to decide if he should save that kill spell. We do know there is a Wall of Roots in Snake's hand, and that could be some... Oh man, Wrench Mind. That's what I was expecting for the last turn. Talk about a just terrible start for Snake. Definitely, you know, you hate to talk luck, but having to drop to 4, it looks like he's going to lose also an Axebane Guardian as well here. Talk about some terrible luck, and you have to drop to 4. You do manage to get kind of established. You know, he would have been able to put the Wall of Roots out, get that Axebane going. Oh man, So, question from the chat: do you think Doomblade is going to kill Doomblade? No, actually, Sneak Attack I believe does not actually run Doomblade in his deck. Most mono black control decks actually have chosen not to run it. It is significantly weaker than Victim of Night, because of the fact that if you're in the mirror, Doomblade cannot target down anything, and it's a dead card. Just a little heads up. It did take me actually a while to realize that, so that's not trying to harass anyone. I used to play Doomblade in mono black, and especially with so much Dimir Trinket out there as well, you would come up against that and just go, oh, well, this was fun. 4 dead cards, and you of course always draw them. Crypt Rat's going down. Gonna use it to kill off the Recluse. Ugh. Like I said, I feel bad for Snake. It seems he's just drawing lands. It seems he would have been fine as far as mana goes, getting those finally on the table. Cycling a Polluted Mire there for Sneak. Gets another Rats on the table. Again, putting Snake in a really bad position. Hits land 5. Well, you kind of hoped that game number 3 would be a little bit more exciting, but I would be absolutely surprised if Sneak could not take this down. Just because of not saying anything about the strength or ability of the Love Train deck or JPH Snake here, but I think he just got a really poor draw, a really tough matchup, going to 4 and then having to discard after discard after discard. And Shinobi comes down on the field, providing yet another way for Sneak to basically ensure that the JPH Snake does not get his hand refilled at any point in time. Tapping out here, maybe you can get a Muldrifter. 1 card in hand. Oh man, Train of Thought for 1. For those of you who may have missed it, let's just break this out real quick. Train of Thought, this is kind of what the deck is named about. It does have that replicate ability you see me talking about earlier, and that does allow it to draw a significant amount of cards if you can get the mana together to do so. Unfortunate when you have to just draw 1 card off it. I feel like he could have drawn 2 off it, but again, I think his choice there was he could draw 1 and maybe find a wall. Unless he had the mana to draw and play a creature to stop the Shinobi, whatever he draws off of that Train of Thought is just going to go down in flames, which is quite unfortunate. I really, like I said, I'm not sure that Snake's deck can bring him back from this kind of deficit. As the deck really doesn't have any kind of hard removal. Most of the removal you find in this deck is going to be kind of the combo trick off of Longbow. So we'll have to see what they decide to bring out again for the next matchup, as again I will be just shocked. He's got no blockers, 6 damage off of Crypt Rats on the board. Oh, Muldrifter does go down. That could at least prevent damage off of the Shinobi here. I didn't actually... Oh, Victim of Night. Okay, well, nope. That will not prevent damage. This is probably going to be game. He has no blockers. So Shinobi and Rats attack through. He'll do 4, go to 4, and then activate Crypt Rats for the kill. So we're going to have to see what the... we're going to call it, I guess, Team Shafa brings to the table. I think Affinity could be a really nice matchup against MBC. I used to think that Stompy was a good matchup, but recently it just hasn't been competing, I guess maybe because of the addition of Crypt Rats. We're going to take a real quick break, let these guys get settled into the next match, and then we will get back Okay, so hopefully that worked out. Hopefully the sound is working now. We were talking about Dan running Dimir Trinket here. It is something that he has kind of talked about a lot. He is definitely a big supporter of the deck, and can get things going here. There's a lot of tricks we can put together. So, Fume Spitter, not so great in the matchup. Still gives you a lot of great options off of the Life Staff. Hopefully, someone let me know if the sound is working now, I hope. I'm going to assume it is. Lots of Muldrifter drawing here. Unfortunately, can't pull off any Undying Evil tricks. Again, I'm not sure. Alright, excellent. I'm not sure if he is running Undying Evil. It was something that you would see a lot in Dimir Trinket. You would find a lot of options for Undying Evil and Unearth in the main deck, and then it's kind of died off. A lot of the recent versions aren't favoring that as much, though I personally, when I run it, I do like it. You get a lot of great stuff going on when you can, get Undying off of the Augur of Skulls, off the Muldrifter, when you can get it to stay in play for 4 mana and draw 4 cards off it. I mean, you can't really do much better than that. Alright, so another Chittering Rat's come down. There's a decent amount of draw that you can find in Dimir Trinket. He can find a lot of stuff off of Muldrifters. With the Trinket Mages, he can also accelerate into some of the necessary pieces. He is going to have some problems a little bit, I guess, in this first matchup, as Dimir Trinket tends to run Executioner's Capsule as its best option for killing off creatures, and that does have that non-black stipulation. So there you go, you do have Fume Spitter is going to make the attacking rats smaller after blocking, and then Tragic Slip after the Fume Spitter dies is going to finish it off. Which has come down, and that's going to provide a pretty good answer for the deck against... Oh, does he have it? He's got 1 black open. Are we going to see the Undying? Come on. Ah, so disappointed. So Witches is going to be pretty great against Fume Spitters. It will give him an option to kind of kill those off before they can do anything. In response, obviously, Dan here could use the Fume Spitter to kill off Chittering Rats in response to the Witch, but the Witch is still going to do a pretty good job of keeping those Fume Spitters down, putting them in a position where those are hard to get off the board. I'm sorry, get off the board with the Life Staff. I'm missing up words there. I'm getting too into the discussion in chat. I really love the teams have all kind of shown up here and watch in game. If you are watching and want to join us all, Anything Goes room, you will find the match there. And there's there's a discussion about MBC, and I do think Mono Black Control is such a strong deck in the current metagame. I am kind of happy with where the metagame sits personally. Since the bans, I think we're in a pretty good place, and I don't think Mono Black Control will stay on top. I think it's a very strong deck, but I think there is a lot out there that can compete with it if you get some bad draws, and I think there's some kind of bad builds that we're seeing as well. So finally going to get a Muldrifter that's going to stay into play this time around, although Chittering Rats does have an easy ability to finish that off when he desires to kill it. I think more important is getting that draw going on. Let's see. Someone was asking if that's 4. That will be his 4th Muldrifter. Kind of a nice draw there. He's managed to find 4 Muldrifters in the top 20 cards of his deck, which is pretty awesome. You gotta love that. Yeah. If you're Dan, you gotta love that. It's still gonna hurt a little bit because there's so many options for Mono Black to kill them off, but it give him a pretty good position as he's gotten through that much of his deck. I personally think Muldrifter is one of the stronger creatures in the Dimir Trinket deck. So we'll have to see what he can pull out if he can manage to finish off some of these threats. Deadweight is also something that you see. I'm going to talk about real quick. I personally was a little confused as to why people were choosing to use Deadweight for Mono Black Control. In a lot of cases, what it does provide you is an option to put it on a creature that is larger than 2 toughness, and what that's going to give you is a chance for a Grey Merchant You're adding +1 to your devotion. Again, Grey Merchant is something that if they're running it in mono black control, you'll see it as a 2 of, maybe a 1 of, a sideboard option, something like that. But it is something that you have to be aware of when you play the matchup. Alright, so Dan's cycling some cards. Actually, you know, I forgot how much ability that Dimir Trinket really has to draw cards. You know, we were talking about in the last game how the decks matched up when it came to drawing cards, and I think actually the Dimir Trinket, especially I guess when you draw all 4 of your Muldrifters that early, can pull that off. So he's going to use the Fume Spitter here, gives him a great chance to force the use of Crypt Rats, puts Sneak in a really tough place. Crypt Rats on the board is great, you give an opportunity to wipe the board, but when he uses the Fume Spitter like that, he's basically saying that he's going to force you to use it now or you're going to lose it. And kind of test you to see how much you want to use it for. You see here Sneak only activated the ability for 2, so that his witches would stay on the field with that 3 toughness. And it's still in a really good position, keeping this board state. You know, life is really close, 16 to 14. So I think that was a great play there by Dan. I think that Fume Spitter has a pretty good position to take control of those Crypt Rats and kind of make them activate when you want them to, as opposed to when your opponent wants them to. So let's see what comes out from Sneak here. Lagging a little bit behind, no worries there. Not a great position. Witches in this matchup, again, don't have a lot of great targets. They can target down Fume Spitters, which is kind of nice. But a lot of the targets, you'll see Muldrifters, Chittering Rats, you'll see Trinket Mages. They all have that 2 toughness, and unless you have multiple witches on the field, you're going to have a little bit of trouble. Oh, and a second Crypt Rat's coming down. Alright. Swinging through for the 1 there off of that. Let's see if Dan can find another way. How many... Let us check out his graveyard once again. How many Fume Spitters? 1, 2, 3 Fume Spitters already out. I'm not sure he runs any more than that. It is kind of a nice thing. A lot do run 4, but Crypt Rats of his own. This could be interesting because he can again force the activation of Crypt Rats, which would leave Sneak with only 1 damage. If he activates his for 2, he puts himself in a really cool place because Dan activates his for 2. That will go on the stack, so it will do at least 2 damage to the Witch. It's going to kill not only Sneak attacks Rats, it's going to force him to decide whether he wanted to use that 1 mana of his own. But looks like Dan's not even going to give him the choice. He's going to activate for 3, going to kill that off and get that off the board. The Rats can activate here if Sneak just wants that extra point of damage, which could be useful at this point because he is ahead in life, even if it is a little bit. Yes, this is definitely a cute interaction between the two. Going to lose the Witches really has no other play. It's just a decision basically if he wants to activate his own Rats, which I think he is going to do. No reason really not to do it because of the fact, like I said, he is ahead on life, so if you can get Dan down a little bit more, that's going to put you in a really great spot. While we're at it, I do believe Dan is trying to record these matches himself, so keep an eye on that as well. He'll probably announce maybe over at MTGO Strat that these will go up. So let's see what Sneak has going on. Oh, another land. I don't know about that. Because I'm 99% sure that Sneak isn't running Corrupts. I'm not sure he needed to play that. I feel like I would have wanted to keep that Polluted Mire in my hand and cycled it off, trying to find something else, but I don't know, again, what was in his hand to begin with. But he does get Sign in Blood. That's going to help him out a little bit. I still kind of feel like you don't really need all that land. If you're running Corrupts, you need to kind of get to 6. If you're running Tendrils main deck, this is still game 1. Then you're going to want to try and keep a little bit extra mana open, so, you know, still probably 6 is a good spot. I don't know, it's tough. Even if he gets Corrupt, that's only 4 damage off of the swamps he had in play. But Dan's going to try and make a bit of a comeback here. He does get a little bit of an advantage off of that Sign in Blood, and this is kind of where things would start to turn around. Obviously, he would use Trinket Mage to find Life Staff, and that can really start to get things going. I guess Executioner's Capsule here, while it's dead, you see he can only target non-black. What it does give him is an opportunity to use it on his own Trinket Mage if he needs the life gain. Being in mono black, you have basically no way to interact with the artifacts on the board. So if he wants to use it to kill his own guy and go up life, man, this is kind of definitely interesting. So he loses 1 life off Verdict, gains life off of the life staff. Oh, and there is going his graveyard, which means that we will not get to see those unearths out of sneak attack. Those will be cycled off as he finds them. And a Tragic Slip kills the rats as soon as it goes into play. This is, like I said, definitely a war of attrition between these two decks. I know there's a lot of people out there who do not really care for the control matches, but to me, this is great. I think there's a lot of great stuff that we're seeing here. Another Trinket Mage coming down. I don't know, is he running a second Life Staff? Okay, he's going to get a Vault. Usually they don't run a second Life Staff. I was going to say if he did, that would just be crazy because he would be able to get double the life off of that. He has plenty of mana to equip them to his Trinket Mages. It's going to give him a decent attack as well. Ravenous Rat's probably going to block. I don't know, you're at 10 life. That's kind of that gray area where you can't necessarily just give away life, but at the same time, you don't want to kind of be too aggressive. Draws to a land there, going to cycle it off, trying to find something. Anything he keeps in hand at this point in time is going to probably get thrown away to the Augur of Skulls. Does get a Rager. A decent amount of card draw that he's finding right now. It is going to cost him a little bit. Okay, Echoing Decay is in his main deck. Good to know. Going to take the opportunity to kill off Augur of Skulls, I guess so he can do the 1 damage on the attack. Really wasn't a concern at that point about losing cards in hand. I guess it does give him, in the later turns, an option to... Ooh, going down to 3 now. An option to keep cards in hand. I'm a little surprised he decided not to... Does he have Corrupt? I'd swear that Sneak is not running Corrupt. But the way he's being so aggressive, unless he has another creature now, he's just giving up the game to Trinket Mage. He has to have a kill. 1 card in hand. You know, he had options there to block the Rager. He would have gained life as the Trinket Mage died. Dan would have, but I think it would have been worth it. Okay, he does have a kill. So he is trying to be a little bit aggressive. He is going to go back up to 10 life. Sneak's still at 3, 2 cards in Dan's hand. And in response, Tragic Slip's going to come out, finish off the Rager now that it does have that activated Morbid ability. So now we know Dimir Aqueduct comes down. The card in his hand is going to be the Bog. So unless he has an Unearth here, Sneak Attack is going to lose that use on Phyrexian Rage. Oh, he does get it. All right, excellent. Just in time. Putting him down to 2 life. This could get really close. Dan with a land in hand, going to go down to 9. Let's see if he can top deck into something useful. He should have plenty of stuff. He's got a lot of land already on the field, so you would feel like he wasn't going to be drawing into very much as far as land is concerned. But does he have a play? No creature on the play here. Kind of an interesting spot because the Dimir Trinket deck doesn't run a ton of creatures. He's already managed to get 3 of his Fume Spitters out. He's already lost all 4 of his Muldrifters, which I said is going to be one of his biggest creatures. Going to put him in a really tough spot. Dress coming out to see what the 1 card is in Dan's hand. Is he bluffing with a land? No, it was an Undying Evil, so he does run that in the main deck. And then Ravenous Rat's going to come down as well. So we're looking at 4 points of damage on the board for Sneak. See what Dan can come up with here. Sign in Blood. Oh, wow. There you go. Sign in Blood for the kill. That is an awesome move. Talk about top deck. That is so great. Use the Sign in Blood, which is a great addition to the mono black decks. It's not hard to get that mana. I'm a little surprised to see it. I guess in this, maybe I wasn't paying attention enough to Dimir Trinket. But does use it to target his opponent. Let Sneak draw 2 cards, but it's going to cost Sneak 2 life. 2 life that he didn't have, and Dan is going to take down the first game. That is a pretty great finisher to what I consider to be a great matchup between these two decks. There's a lot of great stuff going on here. Maybe Sneak decides to go into a little bit more discard to try and deal with this. I think he's actually pretty well positioned, in this matchup. Again, he doesn't have anything in mono black control to deal with artifacts, really. So it's going to take some interesting plays. You don't find a lot of things staying on the board as far as the creature wall is concerned. Man, what a matchup. You might see Dan bringing in some options as far as negate, some counter spells to try and get past some of the kill. I think if he has an additional life staff, I would love to see that brought into the main to really give yourself that advantage. And I think that's got to be what kept him in that. Wow, I can't even imagine. I'm still excited about that ending because I have sat there and played any number of games with mono black control and just wished that I could pull off the end game kill with a Sign in Blood targeting my opponent. And when you could pull that off, I mean, that's the ultimate of cheeses. So we're going to move into a second game here. Starts off, looks like Sneak is going to have to drop to 6 cards. Not an ideal start, but could be worse. While Dan is going to be able to keep a full 7. Alright, turn 1 Fume Spitter. You can't ask for really much more off of that. I think it's great to know that Dan does have those Undying Evils in his main deck. I would be curious to know if he had 2 or 3. Usually you don't find a full set. But it will provide him a lot of great options against the mono black matchup to kind of get around those kill spells. Alright, so attacking through with Fume Spitter. Going to lose it to Verdict. Not much can be said about that. Kind of an interesting thing. I don't think I would want to waste a Verdict on Fume Spitter, but I guess getting it off the board now before you see something like a Life Staff in play is going to be definitely helpful. Alright. Oh, Wrench Mind. I don't know about that. I feel like it's really weak in this matchup because of the fact you are playing Dimir Trinket. You see here, Dan throws away Vault of Whispers. So that gives him that second ability on Wrench Mind. If you have an artifact, you do not have to discard 2. You can only discard 1. And Chittering Rats is going to put Sneak down to 3. Passing along the turn there. No plays. Dan's going to attempt to swing through with 3 here. I wonder if Sneak is in a really bad spot because of mana. He's not making land drops. Oh, man. This is going to be tough. Chittering Rats is definitely hurting him. When you're behind on the... oh, God, another Chittering Rats. Oh, man. When you're behind on lands, you're not drawing them when Chittering Rats is putting them back. Oh man, that is a killer draw for Dan here. This is because you're at 2 lands and you really need to find that third. I don't know what he has in his hand, but he's got to be looking for something. Probably a 3rd land, I would imagine. Maybe a Crypt Rat's in there, but maybe a Tendrils even if he brought those in. But Chittering Rat, Chittering Rat, Chittering Rat. That was 3 turns in a row. It does not get much more brutal than that. Especially when you're behind. Down to 4 life. This game could be over already. Oh, Grim Harvest, so he does have that. I wonder if that was a sideboard option. I don't think Sneak can do anything here. There's just too much damage on the board here. His best option was to get Crypt Rats. Yeah, and Dan will take this game 2-0. That splits us to 1-1 between the 2 teams. Now let's take a quick break, and we will jump into the next game after we figure out who is up next. Alright, guys. So it was a pretty crazy match. We are now 1-1 between the 2 teams, and jumping into this next match, we do have Splashing Black is playing against Dan. Let's see what Splashing Black is running. Kind of interesting. It was a nice strategy there by this team, Team Sneak. Oh, Abundant Growth. This could be hexproof. Team Sneak actually starting off with probably their strongest player. No offense to Avery, I'm just not familiar with him. I know Splashing Black said he is a little bit more casual, but we know Sneak is a heavy grinder. So their strategy there seemed to be starting off with their strongest player, hoping that he could take the all kill, which would have been 3 matches to none. He did take down the first one in good fashion, put up a hell of a fight in the second round, but getting screwed in that second game against Dan, who had just an amazing draw. Really put him behind. Uh-oh. What is this? Visionary coming down. Okay, this may not be a typical deck, which works out. We are definitely open to anything you want to bring here. Let's see. It'll be interesting to see if this is elves, some elves variant. Augur coming down, going to, of course, cause all kinds of trouble if you can get a bunch of discard off of an Undying Evil. Let's see what Splashing Black has going on here. Maybe a curveball deck is exactly what you need to kind of pull out this particular matchup, because it requires, you know, a little bit of previous knowledge. When Dan goes into a game against Sneak Attack, he knows that he is playing Mono Black Control. He knows what Sneak brings to the table. And this is going to be something a little bit different. You can play a little bit better when you kind of have an idea. If he has played Sneak before, as I imagine he has, he kind of knows that he doesn't have to worry about corrupts. Oh, what is this? Garden. Could this be Watch Rights? Young Wolf. Alright, we're just going to look at some kind of Stompy variant. This could definitely be interesting. Stompy being obviously a green, kind of weenie, kind of... Oh, no, he does have the Undying Evil. So it looks like Splashing Black is going to be forced to discard 4 cards to this Undying ability. If Dan chooses to sacrifice this Augur of Skulls yet again, and he does, that's going to put him down to 2. But as I was saying, Stompy's actually something that I feel like could have a little bit of an advantage in some of the metagame we see currently. Thanks to things like the Young Wolf and the Undying and Hunger of the Howl Pack, I really feel like it should be placed better than it currently is in daily events. Oh, yep, this is definitely going to be Watch Rights. We see here in the graveyard discarding Rites of Initiation and Nest Invader. So a little bit different than the list I know that is Watch Rights. This is going to be a crazy deck. For those of you who are not familiar with Watch Rights, the deck looks to play a whole bunch of little tokens. Things that are seemingly unimportant, like this plant token. Things like the Eldrazi spawn that you get off of the Invader there. And what it looks to do is kind of combo out. You're going to attack with a whole bunch of these guys that may not even have a single toughness available to them. And what's going to happen is that you kind of combo off. Sorry here. When you cast Keep Watch, this is a card that allows you to draw a card for 2 and a blue for each attacking creature. So you attack with these little guys that have no power, no toughness to really worry about, and it allows you to draw a card for each one. So the idea is you attack with a whole bunch of little crappy creatures, you draw a whole bunch of cards, and then cast Rites of Initiation, as we see here, which is 1 red, and you discard a card, and for every card you discard, you're going to pump all of your creatures up significantly. So you attack with a whole bunch of little creatures, you draw a whole bunch of cards off Watch Rights, and then you combo out with Rights and give them all a significant increase to power. The idea being that your opponent will not have enough creatures to block them and deal you can deal the damage you need. This is going to be unfortunate a little bit here for Splashing Black, however, as he does find himself against a Crypt Rats that will be able to wipe this board, even just the one. You're kind of in a position here where you want to force the board wipe. You want to be able to not necessarily play a whole bunch more tokens. You want to get Dan to activate that Crypt Rats, clear off the board. And it's going to be really hard to do, as he does have Fume Spitter. I think it's put him in a pretty good position against this deck. Executioner's Capsule also on the field is going to give him a target. He's kind of holding back on the Crypt Rats now. I guess he doesn't want to activate Young Wolf. Getting it out as a 2/2 is not going to be too critical because the capsule can finish that off as well. And he does seem that here he is going to activate the Crypt Rats. Interesting choice of activations here. He does stack them. Something to keep in mind, you can do this. When you activate the ability of Crypt Rats, it does go onto the stack like that. So what you saw from Dan is he activated Crypt Rats for 1. For 2, and that goes on the stack first, and then in response to that you activate it for 1, and then that goes onto the stack. So the first trigger resolves, it deals 1 damage to all creatures, which kills off the Young Wolf. The Young Wolf will then, in response, after dying, come back due to the Undying ability. and then it's a 2/2, and then that second activation of Crypt Rats is going to clear the stack and deal 2 damage to everything. So for 3 mana, Dan is basically able to wipe the board. But that's something you have to keep in mind. He really played that well. You have to be able to make that play as he did, and using it in response. So Fume Spitter here with Grim Harvest, this is going to be really, really tough. That's kind of a great combination. It allows him the opportunity to activate Fume Spitter and trigger that recover ability on Grim Harvest whenever he wants to. So that will be a very tough thing for Splashing Black to get past. Excuse me, and he is also down to 3 cards in hand. Not necessarily a great place to be in when this combo gets online. I'm not sure. Most of the times you will not see any kind of Grave Hate found in Watch Rights decks. No bogs or anything like that. So he won't have really an option to get rid of Grim Harvest, and not really any kind of direct kill. They might run a burn or so, but what you will find is that most of the time it's not going to do a whole lot. If you have a creature kill, you can sometimes force the activation of the recover ability. If you can get something going through combat, you can also, like I said, force that activation here. But it's not going to really be the scenario in this particular deck. So attacking through here, block with the Fume Spitter, can use it to prevent basically 2 damage by sacking it before damage, killing off a Sapling token here as he does, and triggering the Grim Harvest, which he has left himself mana available for. So in response, okay, Watch Rights. This is the other card, as you see there. Keep Watch. Going to at least let him to draw 3 cards before this dies. Give him a little bit, put him a little bit back into where he wants to be after losing so many cards in the early game. Let's see. So Elvish Visionary coming down. Again, going to be able to kind of refill his hand from where it was. Sorry, reading chat here. Yes, it probably should be set to playing Magic, but unfortunately I do not have the ability to do so. So if Planet is watching and wants to do that, he can feel free. Another Crypt Rat's coming down, going to be able to wipe the board, and that's just going to be brutal for this type of deck. Watch Rights is a deck that wants to keep a lot of creatures on the field. It wants to be able to swarm over an opponent, and Crypt Rats is not going to allow him to do that. That being said, I mean, not necessarily a terrible place. Splashing Black is not in a great position by any means, but he is ahead in life for what that is going to be worth. Like I said, it's really tough because once your opponent has the Grim Harvest ability going on, especially with Crypt Rats, with Fume Spitters, he can sit here and he can activate Crypt Rats for 1 turn after turn after turn, as long as he is leaving himself the mana available to activate Grim Harvest. That is going to be just brutal for him. Another Ranger going to come down, at least going to shore up his mana base. I do like the addition of Abundant Growth. The version I currently have of Watch Rights does not use Abundant Growth, but I think it's a pretty good option. It does give you a color change for the Watch Rights combination. It does cantrip a card. I kind of like that. So, I mean, I really don't necessarily know what to say here, because I feel like Splashing Black is in an okay position. He can keep attacking through for damage. Dan has the broken, well, not broken, but he has the endless kind of loop going on with Grim Harvest, Crypt Rats, and Fume Spitter, whatever he chooses. Fume Spitter is probably his better option because he's putting himself down a decent amount of life in doing so. Attacking through here, does have Capsule still available to kill it off. Tragic Slip going to actually be kind of strong in this matchup because there is not a lot of big creatures in the board for Watch Rights. Kind of actually, if we pop open the graveyard here real quick, What you do see here with the Nest Invader at a 2/2 is really going to kind of be one of the strongest creatures available for Splashing Black for the Watch Rights decks. Obviously, you know, Young Wolf is going to provide some value when it comes back, and he continues to use Crypt Rats, which I feel is a little bit interesting. I guess he does have an option here. He can, once again, as we talked about, use that double activation on Crypt Rats, keeping control, and getting that Young Wolf to die permanently. And that's going to work out a little bit in his favor, but still the continued ability to activate that recover on the Grim Harvest puts him in a really good spot. 7 life, though. I feel like at some point in time, you know, if there's maybe not a Young Wolf on the board, what he's going to want to do is start bringing back Fume Spitter as opposed to Crypt Rats, and that's going to still target down most of Splashing Black's guys. He can continue to, you know, use it even if, you know, you've got a guy with 2 toughness. You can continue to use it thanks to the heavy mana that he's already got going on in play. Oh man, Augur of Skulls coming down, so if Splashing Black can't do anything about that, which odds are he will not be able to with this particular deck, he is going to be forced to discard down 2 cards. Yeah, no plays there. Really just terrible to see. Activating that, and now he can use, obviously, Grim Harvest on that. Grim Harvest is really a strong card in the format. It's something that you only see usually ran as a singleton in any deck that is running it. Most of the time it will be found in a blue-black control deck or Dimir Trinket, as we see here. It's not really something that mono-black control wants, because it doesn't necessarily... I mean, it finds a better home in these types of decks, because what these decks provide to it is the ability to continually activate the recover ability. And when you can activate that, and it's not your opponent dictating when that is activated, then you can really get these loops going on. You see here that, you know, he can keep replaying Augur of Skulls to really decimate the hand. He can keep doing Fume Spitter and Crypt Rats, and these are all cards that he is himself activating the recover ability on Grim Harvest. You can dictate the pace of play, and you don't really have to worry too much about your opponent, you know, doing damage to a creature and maybe forcing you to lose something. I think he's just in a really good position here, and I'm kind of hoping that Splashing Black can pull this out, but I'm not sure he can. I love this deck. Watch Rights is actually one of the cheapest decks you can put together for probably any competitive play. Most importantly, Pauper. I did make a post not that long ago, back when we were talking about the intro guide. If you consider the lowest card that you can buy in a singleton form as 2 cents, because that's usually what you'll find on, you know, sites like MTGO Academy is their cheapest card. If you consider a cheapest card as, you know, being 2 cents, the cost for building a Watch Rights deck is basically coming down to almost 2 cents per every card in that deck. So it works out really great. This is kind of tough to watch, in my opinion, because, you know, you have the repeated use of Augur of Skulls here, and it's going to just keep decimating his hand. He's basically locked down. You know, Sprout Swarm here is nice. The Skulls can still eventually force him to discard that. He does have a little bit of a buffer with 5 in hand, but the Grim Harvest is going to keep coming back and using even Fume Spitter to clear out whatever he puts on that board. Smart not to attack here. If he did, he would just lose the Saproling token to the regenerate ability on Augur of Skulls. While it is actually a great discard engine, you have to at least consider that it has some merit in the fact that it does regenerate. It's not a great thing, but it is something that is worth noting, simply for the fact that you do find yourself in an aggro metagame. You may find yourself against an opponent who they're already in top deck mode. Discard is not going to do anything for him, so having a blocker on the field that can regenerate might provide you a little bit of added value. You know, good, not great kind of thing. I feel like this game is just kind of stalling out a little bit. Again, Crypt Rats, I'm a little surprised to see that coming down, because I feel like he could accomplish the same thing off of Fume Spitter for less mana. I guess he knows that with Sprout Swarm in hand, Splashing Black is going to continue to activate this Looks like he can only get one activation out this turn. But I guess he's anticipating seeing multiple Saproling tokens going on at some point in time. This is just really a tough position to be in. Not exactly a favorable matchup by any means. So I'm going to take a chance, going to swing into it anyways. I guess there's no reason not to. Crypt Rats, if it chooses to block, is going to have to activate to kill them off. Oh, Undying Evil. Okay, nice. So he will be able to... Is he block or does he activate it? Looks like he is going to activate it. Alright, activating it for 2. I'm sorry, it will come back as 2. So it's going to die off. It's going to kill both of those Saplings. It's going to trigger his Grim Harvest. And it will come back as a 2/2 creature. And really, Splashing Black is not able to gain any kind of ground here, despite the fact that Crypt Rats is putting Dan down now to 6 life. Most of that life, you have to consider, for those of you who have been watching with us, has come from his own Crypt Rats. It has not so much been the attacks of these 1/1s from Splashing Black, it has been this continued activation of Crypt Rats. But if Splashing Black can't do anything to really get past it, he might find himself in this situation. You see here now, Dan can start getting some advantage to the fact that he can get multiple of these sack creatures on the play, still having that Grim Harvest available. Attack through with the Crypt Rats. There's no reason not to. You have to realize, obviously, Splashing Black still has the Sprout Swarm in hand, can use that token to simply block. Probably actually better done. He does it here in the main. Probably better done in the blocking phase. Or, I'm sorry, before the blocking phase. Because of things like this, yep. It still would have happened then. It just, maybe you would have given yourself an opportunity to kind of finagle a little bit. It's definitely hard because he doesn't have mana to do more than a single token per turn at this point in time. Dan has done a pretty good job of keeping the board clear. I'm going to finally bring life totals back into something closer. But he really just doesn't have the opportunity here to do anything significant, gain any ground, because he only has enough mana to generate 1 token per turn. If he had more mana, more creatures on the field, he could really get that Sprout Swarm going. Terramorphic coming down. 3 cards in hand. At the very least, when that Augur of Skulls activates on the next turn, Splashing Black is going to be able to maintain the Sprout Swarm. I'm not sure how much that really gains him at this point. This game is kind of done. If I was him, and I get a lot of crap for this, but I always encourage people to... Oh, does he have 2 Grim Harvests there? He does. Okay, so good to know Dan has 2 Grim Harvests in the main deck. But I always encourage people to play games out. Eat off a little bit of clock. I mean, you're kind of committed to spending the time playing the games anyways. So if you can sit there and get that going, maybe you can time out your opponent. So let's see. I do believe I finally pulled up, I did get a copy of Dan's list, so we can at least look at sideboard options for him.